For the most interesting unknown cultures in human history, let's start with the pretty interesting and work our way to the most interesting culture, and also kinda terrifying. Number 4. The Guanches of the Canary Islands. The Canary Islands, where over 12 million visitors flock a year, but most of these sun-seeking travelers are unaware of the Canary's secret history of an ancient civilization, way before it became a hotspot for beach bums, and well before the Spanish set foot here in the 15th century. The islands were home to the Guanches, who date back to the 6th century BC. The origin story of the Guanches is like a plot from a mystery novel. How'd they get here? Where'd they come from? With theories ranging from lost Celts to vacationing Vikings, and even some crazies believing they came from Atlantis. But DNA studies from the mummies, yes, they had mummies, have since revealed a connection to the Berbers of North Africa, adding another layer of the Canary's multicultural backstory. The Guanches were extraordinarily tall. We're talking NBA draft prospects here, who were experts at navigating the island's rugged terrain. These ancient islanders probably spent their weekends farming, foraging for snacks, and discussing cattle prices. Their homes were the original tiny home goals. Simple caves and huts, where your wealth was measured in cows, not Instagram followers. Not much is known about the Guanches' religious beliefs, but we do know that they were definitely into higher powers and not too fond of devils or demons. Each of the Canary Islands had its own deity fan club, with members offering up milk sacrifices or gathering in caves for divine group chants. Their spiritual headquarters? Risco Caído, a cave complex now turned UNESCO heritage site, showcasing their impressive cave art and their love for hosting celestial parties. The Guanches' knack for mummification have had people drawing comparisons to ancient Egypt. This culture's sun-cured mummies showcase their impressive preservation skills. It's like they were trying to one-up the ancient Egyptians in the ancient world's version of Top Chef, but with mummification. The Guanches are considered a lost culture as they were wiped out during the Spanish colonization. While the tribe may be long gone, their spirits live on in the current Canary Islands' vibrant culture. From dance and music to unique languages, like Silbo Camero, an entire language spoken by whistling. It was used to communicate across the deep ravines of the island and can be heard from up to 5 kilometers away. Louder than any canary, that's for sure. And for those wondering if they share a connection with these ancient islanders, there's always ancestry testing, since the mummies provided that DNA. Who doesn't want to find out if they're descended from a civilization of tall, mummification-savvy, whistling people? Number 3. The Sentinal Island Community. The Sentinelese are the least studied culture in the world. These mysterious inhabitants of North Sentinel Island in the Indian Ocean are masters of the arts of get off my lawn, long before it was trendy. The tribe has made it abundantly clear over many decades they're not interested in mingling with the outside world. We are one giant, unwanted party guest. In 1967, a crew of 20, led by wannabe Indiana Jones anthropologist T.N. Pandit, decided that they would surely be the ones to make friends with the understudied tribe. Peeping through the binoculars, they saw the Sentinelese folks chilling by the coast. The Sentinelese quickly decided to bail into the forest at the sight of these party crashers. The team, in true stalker fashion, followed their footprints to their grassy huts and cozy fires. They found a treasure trove of Sentinelese Amazon essentials, honey, pig remains, fruits, and even an ancient toolkit. But definitely no warm welcome, just cold shoulders. In 1974, a National Geographic film crew, armed with coconuts, a pig, a plastic car, and a doll, such a random assortment, and most importantly, arrogant optimism, attempted to befriend the Sentinelese. This time, they gave much more than just a cold shoulder. The locals responded with a hearty welcome of arrows, hitting the director square in the thigh. The Sentinelese got a laugh out of it, showing their appreciation by pretending to poop on the beach in view of their new friends taking all the coconuts and leaving the pig, car, and the doll buried in the sand. Fast forward to January 27, 2006, and here comes along 2 more party crashers, Sundar Raj and Pandit Tiwari. These 2 geniuses embarked on a crab heist off the coast of North Sentinel Island. Their grand plan hit a snag when their boat's DIY anchor decided to take a night off, leaving them to the mercy of the sea's currents. Ignoring the "run away" advice shouted by fellow fishermen, the vessel made an unscheduled stop at the Sentinelese shores. The Sentinelese gave them a rather sharp welcome, with axes. Their story took a turn for the bizarre when reports emerged that the fishermen's bodies were displayed on bamboo stakes, facing the sea in a rather morbid twist on the scarecrow concept. Talk about a no trespassing sign. 3 days into the macabre display, the Indian Coast Guard flew in, only to be greeted by a volley of arrows and spears from the island's residents, causing them to rethink their rescue strategy hastily. The Indian government decided that leaving the Sentinelese alone was the best policy. I guess those guys can really huck a spear. But you know us people just can't leave well enough alone. In November 2018, John Allen Chow, a 26-year-old American missionary, decided to crash the ultimate no-invite party. Backed by the USA-based All Nations, but forgetting the tiny detail of getting a permit, he set off to convert the Sentinelese to Christianity. Because a culture we know nothing about must need Jesus. On November 15th, Chow, in a move that screams tourist, paid local fishermen to sneak him close to the island. He then kayaked the rest of the way, trying to win over the locals with gifts and everyone's favorite icebreaker, worship songs. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. The Sentinelese response? Lots of laughter and a not-so-welcoming arrow straight towards his chest, where his pocket Bible happened to be, sparing him major injury. Ignoring the life-saving hint. Maybe God was telling you something, buddy. Chow made one last attempt on November 17th, telling his ride to leave without him. Spoiler alert, it didn't end well. The fishermen later spotted the islanders dragging Chow's body to the beach, like a terrifying Weekend at Bernie's remake. The aftermath? 7 fishermen got a trip to jail for their Uber services. A murder case was opened against unknown individuals, and let's be real, charging the Sentinelese was never on the table. Despite some half-hearted attempts to retrieve Chow's body, everybody eventually agreed it was best to leave the Sentinelese alone, avoiding any more potential lethal misunderstandings. Finally, it seems like people understood that this was a culture that would have to forever be left alone and unstudied. Regular visits stopped, and occasional check-ins from a distance became the new norm, especially after the 2004 tsunami, just to make sure they were doing okay. So while they may not be hosting tea parties anytime soon, rest assured, the Sentinelese are doing just fine, thank you very much, in their little slice of paradise in the Indian Ocean. Number 2. The Sea Nomads of Southeast Asia. In the middle of the hustle and bustle of Southeast Asia lies a culture that defines the norms in the most awe-inspiring way possible. With a lifestyle so nomadic and seafaring, they make Pirates of the Caribbean look like landlubbers. The Bajau People are also known as the Sea Nomads, and this culture has made the ocean their permanent address, with a completely nomadic and seafaring style. Generations upon generations of Bajau families have been navigating the waters of the Coral Triangle with the finesse of seasoned sailors. Seriously, they've been at sea for so long that they probably have gills by now. They've also been passing down their ocean mastery from one generation to the next for centuries. And while we mere mortals are busy fretting about mortgages and property taxes, these folks are out here living their best maritime lives, rarely setting foot on dry land. Because who needs solid ground when you've got the open ocean as your backyard? The times they do come onto dry land for resources or trading, they feel an intense wave of land sickness, since their bodies are so acclimated to the sea. Despite the modern world creeping in on their traditionary way of life, there are still more than 3,000 sea nomads around Semporna, a coastal town in Sabah, Malaysia. This culture isn't just about being casual beachcombers either. They are the best spear fishermen and pearl divers in the world. This culture has mastered the art of freediving to depths that would make the most trained swimmers pass out. They can easily descend over 60 meters, 200 feet to us Yanks, all while holding their breath for more than 10 minutes at a time. Just for comparison, A normal person would feel their lungs beginning to squish under that much pressure, and just try to hold your breath for even a minute. Ready? Go! The Bajau don't just swim around everywhere either. They've got a serious knack for boat building, and the boats are the pride and joy of the Bajau community, showcasing their craftsmanship and creativity for the entire tribe to see. But despite the influx of tourists and the development of once pristine islands like Mabul and Pulau Sipadan, the Bajau people still practice their traditional ways. However, these sea-wandering people are considered stateless, floating between countries without citizenship or identification. On the water, they are royalty of the sea, but once on land, they are no names, without any rights or privileges afforded to normal citizens, like education, social health care, and even the ability to seek jobs on land. Many Bajau are illiterate, and most don't even know their age. Sadly, the freedom of the sea seems also to be their prison for their interesting culture. Number 1. The Bajau People of China. And finally, to one of the most interesting, yet sort of unsettling cultures on my list. Let's go to China, the land of majestic rivers, lush forests, towering mountains, and oh yeah, hanging coffins. Because nothing says rest in peace like dangling off a cliff. These ominous coffins belong to the ancient cultures of the Bajau and the Guanches people, who hung these coffins nearly 3,000 years ago. Now, why exactly did they want to hang around, even in the afterlife? Well, your guess is as good as anybody's. Some experts believe that the Bajau tribe thought it'd be a shortcut to heaven. Back then, people worshipped the rocks, mountains, water, and even the air, and apparently, the tall peaks of the cliffs were seen as the express lane to the pearly gates. Among the discoveries of these cliff-hanging crypts are ancient artifacts that would make any treasure hunter green with envy. From blue and white porcelain bowls to iron knives and spear tips, the coffin-contained antiques are endless. But as illogical as it might seem, these below-ground challenged coffins seem to have served a couple of practical purposes too. First off, it kept graveyard scavengers at bay, because who'd ever want to climb up a 50-story building just to rob the dead? Plus, it also freed up some prime real estate down below for farming land. I'm just not sure how relaxing it is for the living to be farming directly under the dead. It's kind of creepy. Also, the Bajau people, who had been facing years of wars and constant crop failures, apparently just wanted their dead to have some peace, surrounded by nature's finest. And they gave them just that, all while pulling off an absolutely insane gravity-defying stunt. So what happened to this creative culture? Well, the Ming Dynasty had to come along and ruin the party, because nothing puts a damper on a good coffin hang like a ruthless imperial regime. Their culture was slaughtered and wiped out of existence, leaving behind only the mysterious coffins as a legacy. To this day, archaeologists have been left scratching their heads about how exactly these coffins got cemented into the sides of mountains. Some believe that they lowered the coffins down from the top with ropes, while others think they scaled the mountains by climbing wooden stakes driven into the cliff face. There's also a new and wilder theory that they could have constructed enormous earth ramps and rolled these coffins up. But let's be real, shifting that much dirt in a sparsely populated area sounds pretty improbable. But it seems like ancient cultures were all about the improbable. The mysteries of the hanging coffin and the disappearance of the culture of the Bajau people may forever remain shrouded in some mystery. But with each archaeological dig, scientists inch closer to uncovering the secrets of this interesting and unusual period in human history. That's all for my take on history's most interesting, yet lesser-known cultures. What cultures did you find interesting? Did I miss the most interesting one? Let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe.